Good day, everybody. Welcome back to Digital Ag Global. Today, we're going to delve into one of the most foundational and yet often misunderstood layers of the agri-food system, commodities and commodity marketing and trading. From grains and oil seeds to other kinds of commodities, these flows affect the entire value chain of the agricultural sector. But behind price charts and market headlines lies a complex reality. Um, there's a lot of, it's very important to have contracts, logistics, storage, quality control, financing, and risk management. Yuri?
Hi everyone, thank you. Guys, my name is Yuri Kovalchuk. I'm CEO and co-founder of Cultivate. And as Clyde mentioned, today we're gonna dive deep into ag commodities market, what it's all about, what type of innovations are there, and what helps commodity traders today to perform better than others, what type of innovation they're looking for, and what technology should we see in this sector in the future. Before we jump into introducing our today's guest, I just want to mention to our audience, Digital Ag Global as a podcast offers partnership opportunities. So if you guys want to become a part of our network, have access to speaking opportunities, have access to all the insights to our audience, and just support promotion of digital innovations in agri-food value chain, feel free to drop us a line and we'll get you sorted. With this said, let's introduce our guest today, Dmitry Mykhalchuk, partner at GrainTrack. He's going to help us to investigate and navigate the very complex commodity trading industry.
All right.
Let's make it simple, maybe then.
Yes,
Yes.
Let's try to. Yes.
Let's
Hi everyone. My name is Dmitry. Thanks for inviting me. I was a viewer and now I'm here, so that's cool. Let me introduce myself a bit. I'm a partner at GrainTrack, as it was said. I've been building it since 2015, I think. So it's more than 10 years. I'm quite loyal. So yes, once I was an execution manager in one of the companies, and I came there from a heavily digitalized stock market. So I was quite surprised by the level of automation, how low it was. So at the time, there were barely any modern systems for commodity trading, and most of the companies, they were just using legacy software. Some was written in DOS. Maybe some of the viewers know what it is. If not, you're a lucky man. Yeah. So basically, GrainTrack is a CTRM system for commodity traders. It's a SaaS, so software as a service. So you can just think about it as a highly specialized niche ERP designed specifically for trading companies. That's it.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a great summary, Dimitri. I think when people think about commodities, they think about the big trading exchanges in places like Chicago and other futures centers. I think London is another place. But there's a lot of different kinds of transactions going on, frankly, every day, often at harvest in many parts of the world. But commodities and futures of those commodity are sold, bought and sold, and there are all kinds of other contracts. Maybe you could just talk about the complexity of the environment that people in, from farmers through to agribusiness are dealing with when it comes to buying and selling commodities.
Yeah, it's a huge topic. So first of all, commodity trading is not about just managing the price. So obviously you have to buy lower and sell higher, but it's only sounds simple because behind the curtains there are a lot of challenges, starting from how to find the proper deal, but the most important, how do you execute it properly? So both logistically and financially. So it's quite complicated to do. And let's maybe talk about how the real supply chain looks like, right? To give our viewers and listeners the idea who is behind this process, right? So basically, it starts from the farmers, so people who produce grains, who harvest it, who produce it. So they don't have much time. They are too focused on what they are doing. They don't have much time for the speculations with the prices to collect all this stuff and send it to the stock exchange and sell it to someone. Obviously, they're interested in someone who will come in and take their harvest and then just give them money, and that's all their headache, right? So, like uh, after that, here comes the elevator. So the company who is responsible in aggregation of different portions of grains from different farmers, storing it, uh, issuing some certificates, and then managing the logistics, obviously. Then here comes the trader, so the person who can buy some bigger portions of grains from the elevator, from the storage. Then here comes some logistics company who offers trucks or rail cars or wagons to transport it somewhere, because most of the grains usually being transported by sea, which means you have to have ports and big vessels involved, right? So we have port, we have vessels. So all of these guys is a separate counterparties with separate business interests. So one small portion of the grain from one farmer usually goes all the way from him through these traders, through the logistics companies, ports, vessels, and then to the processor of the grain, who will make something from it, like
Yeah.
bread maybe or something, or importer in another country.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where commodity trading and risk management systems comes into play. They're putting it all in a digital environment where you can control it, or there are few separate systems traders usually use.
Yeah, it's not even like that, because there are too many counterparties. So there could be up to 10 or 15 companies in one chain. Imagine.
Okay.
So they just keep buying and selling from everyone, and along the way. So every company has their own particular system. How do they manage the data? And it's never connected with each other. So
Right.
they simply um, they simply are locked inside their own business, and they communicate with others by email, on phones, or WhatsApp. That's it. So all the data is being processed independently by each uh, each counterparty of the supply chain.
So traditionally, farmers grow a crop, they harvest it in the fall in Canada and other places, different seasons. They then they find a market for that crop, somebody that will buy it. Maybe they have somebody lined up. And what we're talking about here is bulk commodities rather than in smaller lots like bags or, even containers. But a lot of the principles are the same. But as the systems require grains and oil seeds and other commodities to be delivered, we're now moving more and more into a just-in-time basis. Uh, Commodities being bought all throughout the year to meet the demands. A flour mill, for example, that's making wheat flour, they need a continuous supply of the correct quality of grain arriving. A plant that makes vegetable oil, whether it's from soybeans or canola or palm oil or whatever, needs a continuous supply of the right quality to make sure its process continues. And all that requires contractual relations with farmers or other middlemen in the system to make sure that that processing system gets the feedstock it needs so that people can have bread on the table, they can have oil to cook their food, sugar to put in their tea.
Clyde, during your speech, you just mentioned, I don't know, maybe 5 pain points. we can discuss a lot, starting from the procurement and quality control and all this stuff. So it's really complicated. So
Yeah.
I don't know where to start. Maybe, okay, if we take procurement, right? So you mentioned there are deadlines. So imagine there is a ship which is waiting for a big amount of grains to be put in, right? So
Mhm.
you have to have, let's say, 20, 30, 40,000 metric tons of grain. So your procurement department should take it from someone, right? So no farmer has it, actually, right? Because it's quite a big quantity. So you have to call a lot of farmers, maybe hundreds, 200s farmers, in order to collect one vessel, right? Then
Mhm.
you have to organize the delivery from each of them. Obviously, it's going to be different portions of grain, which means it will have different quality, which
Mhm.
means then if you mix it, you might face some risks because your buyer, which expects a ship with duly stored goods in it, with proper quality, you might face with some troubles, starting from the one of the truck or two trucks lost somewhere, or the quality is not quite right, or
Yeah.
you expected one amount, but then the grains got wet along the way, and now it's heavier, or vice versa, it's lighter. So yeah, it's not about price anymore, it's about managing risks and
Yeah.
a lot of different things.
Yeah. I mean, price relates to quality,
Yeah,
availability, all these kinds of things. So, sure, we've now identified the complexity of the system. Um, when you're on a farm and you're trying to manage it, most farmers, larger farmers, don't grow one crop, they grow multiple crops, and they don't grow necessarily the same crop all the time. And they may grow some crops that are destined for the bulk market, but they may have niche crops that maybe are grown on a contractual basis and things like that. And then you, at the other end, you've got people that are trying to buy those, they're trying to make the best buy they can, get the best quality for the best price, and they have all these relationships out there. How can people manage that system in an effective way without losing track, as you say, grain track? How do you track all these various uh, obligations that are out there?
yeah.
Obligation to deliver, obligations to buy.
There is no right answer to that, and there is no one answer to that. So each trader, they try to solve it in their different way. So someone, they still manage all the data in spreadsheets. Let's say the others they try to purchase the solution like ours, or
Mhm.
some big vendors like Microsoft or SAP or something like that. Farmers usually don't care much about that, because all they care is when trading company comes and takes their grains, so they not bear these risks at all, right? So they have their
Mhm.
own risks during the production, so not during the sale phase. However, there are companies, especially in Ukraine, by the way, brokerage companies and smaller trading companies that help farmers to get to the market directly without all these intermediate
Mhm.
parties. But that's different topic. So the usual workflow is like this: companies have their contracts in some system, then they have logistics in spreadsheets, because logistics is the data that is exchangeable and transferable between themselves. Because, for instance, uh, I sold you 1,000 tons of grains to you, client, right? And
Mhm.
I have to give you the list of trucks that are heading your way, right? How can I do it? Only in a
Mhm.
spreadsheet. That's the only way. How can I do it? So I will send you a list with a spreadsheet with the list of these trucks with different columns, like the number of the truck, what's weight in there, what's the driver name, what's the way bill number, etc., etc. Then you have to take this spreadsheet and you have your own accounting system or ERP system or whatever you have, and then you have to retrieve this data from the spreadsheet and put it into the system, and then multiply it on 10 times. So as many as companies is there, so you'll have this operation to be done. Then you have finance, right? So you have invoices, you have documents. It's a separate system. Finance I usually manage in some ERP or some small accounting softwares like QuickBooks or something like that. We have communication, which is usually email because it's official. Sometimes you don't need a contract, you need an email. So it's like an English law, right? So if you send an email, it's considered as a contract, right? So you have obligations, even without a signed contract. But and WhatsApp, so that's the classical thing. Also, you have documentation and a separate system for that. And you have paper documents, which are critical because sometimes the payment depends on the paper documents. So you use DHL or another transportation company. So imagine a big octopus with a lot of claws, a lot of legs and hands.
So I think that kind of leads to the question is the solution to move away from, spreadsheets and, paper and things like that to more digital solutions and maybe, what everybody talks about is the dashboard, right? I mean, I hear that term all the time, but that is kind of the holy grail, isn't it? That I open my computer screen and everything I need to know is right there.
You probably, Clyde, I assume you probably have talked to CEOs of these companies because CEO always needs a dashboard, right? If you ask an operational manager, you'll get different answer because in order to have something in this dashboard, someone has to manage the data and have to enter the data somewhere, which this data will be fed to the dashboard, right? So the dashboard itself, it's not a big issue. There are a lot of different solutions, starting from Power BI, ending some open source solutions that you can reuse, like Metabase or something like that, when you can build any dashboard without even a technical knowledge, right? But this dashboard need some source, and this source has to be structured. So the main problem is the data and how these companies manage the data, because sometimes they don't even have a single source of truth. They have different spreadsheets. It's all not organized at all, and you can't make anything from this data. So even if they would have a dashboard like that, it's going to be useless because either it will not have enough data, or this data will be corrupted or incorrect. So yes, definitely, it's a dream, a holy grail, which is never achievable unless companies really take care about the data and how they manage that. That's the issue number one for them.
Yeah. Well, some of the CEOs that I have known, they have people who look after the dashboards, and they just want to make sure that everything, because they have a lot of but in systems where there are buyers who are out in the country, they having them all on the same system so that the head office can understand everything that's going on at the same time is critically important. I mean, Yuri, from a back of the office kind of point of view where you and your team works, what is the complexity? What are the solutions to make that kind of interface work? I mean, that's got to be complex.
Well, it is complex, and that's why in commodity trading, CTRM systems appears as a alternative to 5 or 6 different legacy system people usually use. But the biggest challenge when you're trying to put the data from different sources into one centralized source of truth type of system is data formats, B, how truthful or up-to-date data is, and also how you can do it in real time. So for a lot of the solutions out there that are trying to kind of overcome legacy systems, for a lot of them, data flow, data quality, and truthfulness of data is the biggest challenge when it comes to developing those solutions. As Dmitry mentioned, dashboard itself, it's not a technical challenge. The challenge is the data you're gonna show on this dashboard, and that's the kind of the bottleneck when it comes to very diversified processes like commodity trading is.
So that I think if I'm hearing you, then what you're saying is that when somebody that's making a transaction on behalf of a company, they have to have a standardized input system so that all that data is put in the correct way so that it's compatible with all the other people that are putting input into the system, so that they know that when that vessel leaves and needs 30,000 tons of prime wheat on board, that wheat is going to arrive on time with the right quality and at the right price.
And they have to be not lazy enough to do that.
Pardon me?
Exactly.
And they don't have to be lazy enough to do that.
Yeah, right.
That's really important. So
Yeah.
even if they have a system, there are always an issue with the processes behind it and how the users are actually use this system. But that's another topic, I guess.
Yeah. So, we talked a lot about the issues and some of the solutions. So in the end, though, going digital in agriculture, you've got to be able to show the tangible benefits of, what are the outcomes that companies in agribusiness and down at the production level, at the farm level, what are the benefits in the end that comes from digitizing these systems in an effective way?
Yeah. So first of all, before talking about the advantages, we have to face risks, right, and evaluate risk how bad it is, in order to understand how good are the advantages. So I will talk about risks a bit, and then about the what systems can do to eliminate these risks. So first of all, companies, obviously, they have market risks, right? That's why they have a lot of different instruments to manage this risk, starting from the derivatives and other instruments for hedging, right? So that's what these companies do. They actually invent these derivatives in this industry. So that's how it is. But I'm talking about other risks, like execution risks. For example, if you're failing to deliver something on time, you're gonna face a huge penalties. When I say huge penalties, it can be like 5,000, 10,000 US dollars in day if the vessel will stay longer than it should be. Something like that. It's only one risk during one contract, one supply chain. 10 years ago, I knew a company that lost in one contract 200,000 and in another contract 150,000 because of the Bosphorus closure and the risks related to the Black Sea. It was unexpected, but it was there, and here is your check, right? Then there are quality risks. We mentioned it a bit, like cargo rejection or penalties because of that. So you assume they're going to be one price that the buyer will pay you, but when you collect the portion and you actually try to get your money, it appears that the quality is worse or much worse. So you have to face the penalty and a huge discount from the price. There are counterparty risks. For example, if there are 10 companies in the chain who selling each other, you have the obligation to pay, and someone is having an obligation to pay you, right? So your obligation to pay to your supplier,
Mhm.
I mean, it doesn't depend on would you been paid from the buyer or not, right? So if
Mhm.
someone failed to pay you, it doesn't matter. You shouldn't have to pay your supplier, right? So you bear these risks itself. So it's for example, counterparties will fail a payment or will be defaulted, right? There are currency risks as well, like
Yes.
there is
Foreign
exposure. Obviously, if you sell in euro, buy in dollar, or vice versa, or in Canadian dollars, so it's also important. So all these things are like a cascade, right? So you might have a bit there, a bit there, and it's like compound. At the end, you have a big loss. So
Right.
how to avoid that? How to dodge? Only transparency maybe is the right answer. So if you understand what's going on, contract centric. So if you have a contract in the center of your business process, and you execute your contract both from logistically and financial perspective, and you have full transparency of what is the payment terms, what is the schedule, what is our cash flow, what is our trading position, what is our risk exposure according to different factors. What if the price will change $2? What if the euro will go up? Etc., etc., etc. So unless you have this, you will be exposed to this compound risk
Right.
somewhere in this chain. So the answer is simple. If you have a system or different systems that gives you a business process that gives you this transparency, you are at least control the risks and can prevent something. That's the answer. That's the main benefit. Answering now your question, that's the main benefit of the technology for these kind of guys. That's it.
Yeah. Well, if I think a company, there are certain transactions that may be highly profitable but highly risky, and you may have to say that we can only do 10% of our contracts that are at high risk. We need to have a mix of risk factors. I mean, greater risk is often greater reward, but how much of that can you engage in? And so I think you're saying that these systems can sort of help companies understand their exposure, and are they comfortable with that based on how well uh, you know capitalized they are, for example. So, and I just want to remind everybody in the audience that we're happy to take questions. We do have one now from Oleg from our YouTube channel. And Oleg's question is, in ag commodity training, oh, there it is right there. How in ag commodity training, how big is the impact of AI right now? And I guess I would add for Oleg, what is the future potential for AI? I mean, not every sector is going to be able to fully embrace AI. I think how amenable is commodity training to a positive impact from AI? Maybe you'd start, and then Dmitry could come in after.
Well, I think the commodity trading sector or industry in generally, they're not that different from any other. Right now, we have a huge boom, huge trend, market rush to have everything AI based, and commodity trading is also there. But I think because commodity trading in general is very high risk operations.
Hmm.
As Mr. mentioned, you can lose 5-10K a day in penalties. I think AI will be a human assisted AI in commodity trading. We will use AI for forecasting, for better risk management, but it's still going to be a human assisted AI. So
Yeah.
actual person, actual business operator will make final decisions on what to do next.
Yeah, well, I think the reality in business is that you can fire somebody who makes a mistake, but you can't fire AI. So we know who's going to get fired if there's a mistake,
Yeah,
right? So
exactly.
it is a tool. Dimitra, what's your view on the current impact and potential impact of AI
Yeah,
in this area?
it's not that bright as yours maybe, because people tend to overestimate what AI can do.
Hmm.
Actually, uh, it's quite powerful, but my answer would be consolidated around business processes, because unless you have proper business processes,
Hmm.
uh, you will not be able to trace anything, right? So AI will be helpful in that areas which help you to become better or automate some parts of the business processes that now are legacy or are too complicated or cause delays, etc., etc. So it's not a magic pill, right?
Yeah.
It's not a magic pill that you can simply have some chart, you can ask some questions, and it will predict price for you, or something like that. So you have to be smart enough to build in AI. Uh, it, AI is also a quite a big
Hmm.
notion, right? There are a lot of different things going on in AI. Let's say some large language models, right? You can
Hmm.
build it into some particular business process for your company, but you have to be smart enough to do that, right?
Right.
So my vision here that it will be helpful 100%, but it will depend on how company will utilize their resources and implement AI into their own business processes.
Well, it sounds like I think both of you are saying, if I'm correct, that there's a lot of low-hanging fruit to go from, I think, more rudimentary systems to digital data collection and systems, and that AI may be something down the road.
Well, for sure. I mean, it's not gonna work if you just gonna copy paste your company's trading data into ChatGPT and ask to make predictions. But it might work if you develop a machine learning model that will
Hmm.
analyze your contracts or your trades for the last 5 years, and then you will put a layer of additional data, like farm level data,
Hmm.
and then you will do some sort of predictions. Okay, sunflower yields in Ukraine gonna be bad because of this and this and this, and we see the historical facts that support this, and that's why probably we need to hedge or do some risk management on our contracts with sunflower seeds. So definitely there are a lot of opportunity there, and I think generally speaking, a lot of innovations in agri-food value chain right now, trying to connect farm level data, precision ag data with those commodity traders and people who are actually selling the crops internationally, for example, and
Hmm.
give them some additional analytics as well.
Well, I think, Dimitri, as you've said, the environment is multifaceted. There's so many variables affecting the markets, from commodity change to weather to political strife. I mean, I'm sitting in Puerto Vallarta right now, which has had some minor disruptions. Uh, and you guys operate in Ukraine, so I mean, there's a lot of different things that can happen. Seems like AI over time might help at least provide some analytical guesses as to what the risks are and how they interplay with each other.
Yeah, it's essentially doing it right now, but not to
Yeah,
the extent people want it to be.
yeah.
Yeah, they. I'm a believer that AI will not replace these kind of companies. like trading houses or something, because their processes are too complicated and their role is too huge to be fully replaced. But as I was mentioning, let's take just one example from the business process. Let's say there is a compliance procedure, right? And there are contract approval procedure. The company usually they have multiple contracts processing at the same time. During the day, they have tens of contracts in a month, a lot of shipments, etc. So this tiny piece of business process, it take a lot of time from the officers, from compliance officers, from the back office to be managed, right? So AI here can be a huge helper, small, tiny LLM that can analyze documents and find out the discrepancies or differences from the normal contract or some clauses which can be harmful for the company. These kind of things are quite simple to do. But as I was saying, it's not a magic pill, right? It's a small step that company can take, bringing AI into its own business processes. But first, they have to identify that, okay, we have this kind of problem. All right, then we have to utilize our resources. So who is smart enough to work with this AI? Okay, we don't have anyone. Okay, let's call Yuri and ask Yuri to do something for us, right? So Yuri have to go to this company, have this communication, etc., etc. So what I'm saying, it's not going to be that rapid, not going to be that fast, but with the small steps, these companies will be able to automate most of their routine with AI. That's how I see it.
Okay, so significant potential, but there's a lot of other digital aspects that are going to have to fall into place as part of the evolution of these kinds of solutions. So can you, let's say, look 5 years down the road? I don't know what a good time frame is. How different does this space look if there's greater adoption of these kinds of digital tools, at the business, agribusiness level, but also, on the farm or how farmers, see their interface with companies as well? How different will the world look?
You asking my real projection or my, like optimistic view?
Well, maybe you could give us both. I don't know,
Yeah.
Dmitry.
So
Yeah, it's a tough question. I acknowledge that.
Yeah. So I think the main problem in this data management and all this stuff is related to the absence of the general source of truth between all these companies, right? So when they interchange the data, it's always different, and they have to try to put it into their own systems, and it's really complicated. So I believe maybe in 10 years there are going to be some standard, or there going to be some protocol how this data flow can be managed, maybe with blockchain. I don't know, because blockchain exists for a lot of time, but it's still not there. I know there are the big companies like ABCD, they combine their efforts in order to create a solution that will do something similar, but it's not working on the global market so far. So I believe maybe in 10 years, this will change. That's the first thing, because the market desperately needs it, right? So right now, they all encapsulated into their own infrastructure, and they communicate only via the voice and WhatsApp, and that's all, right? So you have to change it somehow. And the next thing I would say, there will be only those trading houses will survive who will implement something which will be a competitive advantage that will distinguish them from the others. So that's going to be the borderline between life and death in this industry in 10 years, I bet, because the time of the legacy solutions, of legacy system is over. Right now, it's not enough. You have to be modern. You have to implement technology in your life. You have to automate processes if you want to stay alive and to be at least on the same level as the market, if not better.
Yeah, I might be wrong in this, but my sense is that investment markets for stocks and bonds and other financial instruments have evolved more quickly than the commodity marketplace. And
20
I think
years, maybe, if not more. They had 20 years.
yeah, yeah, and that's an interesting issue. Although the thing is interesting with technology is that if you lag far behind, sometimes your catch up can be very quick if you look and see what others are doing and try and take advantage of it. The old expression is that it's good to learn from experience. It's better to learn from the experience of others.
Yeah,
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah.
Cannot
Uh,
agree more.
So we're coming up towards the end of our time. Dimitro, I think we mentioned that we always like our guests to maybe take a few minutes at the end to talk about something that they are view as a hot take or an important development or question or things like that. Have you turned your mind to that?
You asked me if I
Yeah,
should do it.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't mind actually. What I would say, maybe uh, eh, like the main conclusion is that the most commodities companies, they are misjudged in having a market problem with the prices, but in reality they have the problem with the data structure and business processes. That's the
yeah.
ugly truth behind the curtains, right? The real struggle that can be underestimated by many, but it's still there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's very, insightful. And I think in today's world, there's so much discussion about food security, affordability of prices, and things like that. I think that anything that can make the food supply chain more efficient and effective is going to help to address those kinds of things, whether it's, affordability or also, when the right crop commodity arrives at the right place at the right quality, you're going to reduce food waste. And that's another, I think, potential benefit in this whole area. So I think you're right on.
Yeah, Clyde, that's a brilliant statement that you just made because, the whole podcast, we were discussing it from the standpoint of the commodity trading houses itself, right? But
Right.
when we will take a look like a third party, imagine how wasteful it is to be inefficient in the supplying agri chain, right? Because the eventual price is dependent on all these inefficiencies compounding along the way. So imagine how a big impact it can have if these companies can resolve it.
Okay. All right. Well, Dimitro, it's been a great conversation. I think you've given our audience a lot of food for thought.
Hope so.
I know that I'm not going to be taking up commodities trading on my own in the near future because you're right, it is an area of immense expertise and risk, but I think an important future for the companies that are going to really embrace the digital sphere. So thank you very much. Great
Thanks for having
insights.
me here, Clyde and Yuri.
Yeah. And I
Thank
was
you.
I was
Thank you.
always going to turn over to Yuri for the final word and maybe some thoughts about where the podcast is going in the near term.
Yeah, thank you, Clyde. Dmitro, thank you for participating, for sharing your thoughts. Very useful info, a deep dive into how commodity trading actually looks like, and for all of the audience and listeners of our podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We're gonna get back to you in March with our next episode, and we'll try to bring more insights, more interesting stories, and a bit more of digital ag global to you.